Hello everyone and welcome to 40 Questions. My name is Stephen Walker and today I am interviewing Daniel Barry.
Hey everybody, how are you going?
Hello Dan.
Good to see you, Steve.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me over.
It's my pleasure.
Lovely studio.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, to begin with Dan, I'm going to ask you 40 questions, and question number one is, where are you from?
I'm from Canada.
Canada.
That's
and
right.
For those that don't know Canada, where is Canada?
Canada is roughly north of the United States, except for Alaska, from which it is east, and it's also west of Greenland.
And continent?
It's in North America.
North America.
Yeah.
And what nationality are people from Canada?
Well, citizenship, they're all Canadian.
Canadian.
But you can have different kinds of nationalities if you want to talk about different ethnicities.
Right.
Yeah.
But you are a Canadian.
Yes, I'm an Anglo-Canadian generally. We also have Franco-Canadians and etc.
Okay, that's right. The population. What is the population of Canada?
When I left, it was roughly 35 million, and it's close to 40 million now, I think.
40 million?
Yeah.
And the capital city?
Is Ottawa in Ontario.
Okay.
Not Toronto.
All right. And the population of Ottawa? What is the population of Ottawa?
You know, I couldn't say. It could be a couple million. It's not very large. It's a city of bureaucrats, really.
Okay. And have you been there?
One time, many years ago, family trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Unit 2, shape, sizes, and appearances, we start with the flag. And what color is the Canadian flag?
Well, there are two colors, red and white.
Red and white. And what does the flag look like? Can you give us a description
Sure.
of it?
It's basically like a standard tricolor. It's got three vertical lines, rather.
Right.
But there's only two colors, red, white, and red. In the center is a red icon of a maple leaf, and the 13 points of the maple leaf are supposed to represent the 10 provinces and the 3 territories.
Okay, that's interesting.
Which is very interesting because it's the same flag as when I was a child, when we only had 2 territories and 10 provinces, so it's questionable.
But it's 13 points on 3 leaves.
Apparently.
Apparently. All right, we'll look into that.
They might include the stem. It's hard to say.
Okay.
Here, that's their way out now.
Appearance. I don't know. I've never been to Canada, but what does the majority of women and men look like in Canada?
They're about 30% obese now.
Right.
So they're quite roly-poly, lots of fat, lots of bad eating habits. But I suppose ethnically, we have been primarily European, English and French, with a smattering of others. But I guess since the 1960s, like your country, a lot of third world immigration has been encouraged as well too. So you can find Filipinos galore in my hometown now too, and so it's quite a lot of variety now. Filipinos, Indians. I grew up with a Sikh as a good friend, you know.
Okay, so the country India.
Yeah.
Indians.
Yeah, and there's Native Americans. Native Canadians we would call them, I suppose.
Inuit. No.
There are Inuit as well too. Yep, lots of them up north, but sometimes they come down south as well too.
Right. And you are from
Manitoba.
Manitoba.
My hometown is Winnipeg, which is the capital of Manitoba.
Okay. And where is that in Canada?
Pretty much central. Winnipeg is technically the center of North America.
Okay.
It's a flyover country.
And my hometown is Wichita, Kansas, which is also
flyover country.
The heartland, though. We like to call it the heartland.
The heartland.
Bit nicer than a flyover.
Right, yes.
But, you know. And minorities, we kind of touched on that, but can you tell us a little bit more what minorities are in Canada?
Sure, I discussed Native Canadians already. Actually, my home province has probably the highest percentage of Native Canadians, and it's growing. So they're actually on the increase now instead of declining, so they're not being genocided by any stretch of the mean now. The two big cultures were French and English. The French were here first. English. They had Upper and Lower Canada. They were centered in Quebec and Montreal. And now...
so that's east.
That's
Eastern Canada.
But my hometown, Winnipeg, has a subsection called Saint-Boniface. And the Saint-Bonifaciens, they're the largest population of French outside of Quebec.
Okay.
So we don't talk about them too much. You know, we're across the river from those guys. But
And parlez-vous français?
Oui, je parle pas, mais un petit peu.
Ça va?
Ça va bien. Et vous?
Sehr gut.
Sehr gut.
Moving on to Unit 3, food tastes and ingredients. Can you tell us one traditional food that's eaten in Canada?
The butter tart. My mother
tart.
used to make this, and I'm not sure about the origins, whether it's French or English, but I have the impression that it's more French.
Okay.
And it's basically a tart, which is like a small pie.
Mm-hmm.
Tart is like a small tart. Maybe it's called tartine in French, I'm not sure. And it's very buttery. It has pieces of maybe pecans or raisins inside.
Okay.
And it's gooey and caramelly, lots of brown sugar inside too. It's really wonderful to eat.
So you answered a little bit of this, but the ingredients is question 12.
Right.
Can you tell us one more time the
Sure.
ingredients?
Of course, to make the crust,
butter tart?
you need lard, which is animal fat. If you want to use substitutes, that's fine, but it's
not as tasty.
It's not as tasty, no. And you need flour, of course, which is ground up wheat as well, right? And then you have to have eggs as well to make the crust. Once you have the crust, the filling inside the pie will be maybe pecans, raisins, lots of butter, as they're called. It's called butter tarts.
You're right.
And probably brown sugar. It will be the source of the caramelly sweetness.
And do you put like fruit on top of it?
No fruit.
No fruit.
Except raisins, which are dried grapes.
That's true. So that is a fruit.
It is a fruit.
Right.
It's fruity, tooty, tooty.
And so if I were to eat a butter tart,
how
would it taste?
You would be blown off your socks by its sweetness, its incredible sweetness and buttery flavor. Very, very, very oily. I wouldn't say greasy. Greasy is kind of insulting, actually. If you call my mother's butter tarts greasy, you wouldn't be welcome back.
Yeah.
It's game over.
Okay. How about the texture of a butter tart? I've never had one. I have
very,
no
very
idea.
soft and smooth, except for the pieces of nuts, which are a little crunchy, and the raisins are a little chewy, and the crust itself crumbly.
Crumbly.
Done well, it should crumble easily in your mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds tasty.
It is apparently one of the few genuinely Canadian foods.
Well, I've heard of poutine. Poutine.
Yeah, that's French.
Everybody talks about the poutine.
I only had poutine in 1996 for the first time, which is basically just French fries with
gravy.
Gravy and cheese on it. Wow. Never thought of that before.
Thus the obesity.
Probably.
The problem with obesity.
That's why I look so good, because I only ate that in 96.
Yeah, well. Moving forward, Unit 4, weather, seasons, and landscapes.
Very important.
The landscape. What is the landscape like in Canada?
It's like saying, what is the landscape like on a given planet?
Well, that's true.
From coast to coast, the landmass of Canada is wider than the Pacific Ocean.
And Canada is is it the largest
It is the second largest country after Russia. Even after the Soviet Union broke up and it became simply Russia, Russia's still bigger than us.
Right.
So you're welcome, Putin, I guess.
So give us a mental picture of Canada.
Well, if you start on the west coast, it's highly mountainous in British Columbia near Vancouver.
And those are the Rocky Mountains?
Those are the Rocky Mountains. Then you hit the foothills in Alberta, and then boom, through the east side of Alberta, all the way through Saskatchewan, the west side of Manitoba, it's flat. These are the plains. We call it the prairie. You might call it the plains, I guess.
The prairie, the plains.
All right, very good.
Same.
And then once you start hitting Manitoba, you hit what's called the Canadian Shield, which is a whole bunch of igneous rock that's been scoured and exposed by previous glacier activity. The glaciers, large moving sheets of ice.
Right.
And all that's left is now lichen and pine forest and spruce forest. And that goes all the way over past the Great Lakes to basically Toronto. And then that becomes more southern Ontario, and between Toronto and Montreal, they have some really decent farmland. The only place where you can grow grapes in Canada is southern Ontario, near Niagara Falls, that kind of area. And then once you hit Montreal, they say Montreal in French, and Quebec, and going north, it's more forests and pines and stuff. Then you hit the East Coast, lots of fishing there. Prince Edward Island, home of Anne of Green Gables, small island, Newfoundland, and that's the West Coast there.
The East Coast.
Yes, sorry, the East Coast.
Right. And then how about the northern part where the majority of people live?
Live within 100 miles of the border of the U.S.
Border.
Definitely, that's the
So
most habitable. So,
what would you? Is the topography the same in the north part of Canada,
well,
going from west to east?
there's a couple of large lakes, Great Slave Lake, and I forget the other lake too in the Northwest Territory. But once the trees finish, it's all basically tundra, and tundra is always frozen even during the summer up to a certain point.
Right.
It thaws out to a certain point, maybe a few meters underground.
But the topography is similar.
It's fairly. I like to say it's fairly flat, but I can't speak for all of it at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, there are mountains close to Alaska through the Yukon Territory, and it's also very cold and
Cold,
so
snowy,
too.
and
But between say Alaska and Hudson's Bay, it's relatively flatter, I'd say.
okay. So how many seasons are in Canada?
Well, technically, all 4 seasons are in Canada, but you will find
Closer to the border.
a place like Vancouver, winter is quite different from my hometown. Vancouver, they'll have lots of rain, very, very wet. My hometown, lots of snow, very cold, sometimes very colder than the North Pole.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, the North Pole is included, the magnetic North Pole is included in the Canadian territories in the islands above. So.
And so your hometown, you have 4 seasons.
Yeah, we do.
But the seasons are, like winter is the longest season?
It's pretty proportional. Yeah. Maybe about 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. But it's not like Korea. Korea has a very short spring and a very short fall, I find. Ours are longer. Ours are longer.
Mm-hmm.
But the winter is much more severe than Korea. We like to joke we have 2 seasons in my hometown. And there are 2 jokes about that. Winter and construction, because the winter destroys our roads. Or winter and mosquito, because in the summer we have more mosquitoes than maybe the Amazon.
Wow.
And it's just the northern Canada has more mosquitoes than a lot of jungle places. Lots of low-lying water.
Okay, that's interesting.
Those poor caribou.
What is your favorite season in Canada?
Fall.
Fall?
I like fall.
So,
Autumn.
What's the weather like in the fall?
It's pretty cool. You know winter is coming, but the summer's behind you. And to be honest, my birthday is in September.
Mine too.
So I like the fall for that reason. Of course, also school starts in North America in the fall. So that's kind of a downer too.
Well, yeah,
So
nothing's perfect.
My first day at university was my 18th birthday. So that was a good time.
So, if I were to be in Canada in the fall, I mean, is the same? The colors, the trees are all changing?
Yes. Yeah, the deciduous trees will change color.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that lose their leaves.
And then you have the evergreens.
They're all over the place too, depending on where they are. But
right.
Poplar is one of the most common native deciduous trees in my hometown, as well as my home province, as well as the birch.
Okay.
Less common. And we have actually a lot more spruce, black or white spruce than pine, but we do have some sandier areas where there are pine trees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. What natural disasters are in Canada?
Well, we have everything from tornadoes to floods to blizzards. Earthquakes, not so common.
Right.
But I remember when I first moved to Korea, that same year, because my hometown has very low elevation, it's at the base of a prehistoric lake, Lake Agassiz, and at the confluence of two rivers, the Assiniboine River from the west and the Red River from the south. There was a lot of rain down south in North Dakota and so on, and it flooded all the way through up to my hometown. And
right.
So flooding is a big problem where I'm from.
And landslides or
Well, we're very flat where we are, but I imagine landslides would be a major problem in the Rocky Mountains.
Rocky Mountains in the west.
Mm-hmm.
Holidays. What would you say is an important holiday in Canada? that
Christmas.
the majority of people.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Even for the secular people, the people that don't believe in a Jesus deity,
Right.
it's still very, very popular.
And what do the typical Canadians do on Christmas?
Well, they'll go from friend's house to friend's house sometimes, depending on how dedicated they are. Maybe they'll drop off, if they buy gifts for all the friends, they might drop them off at the friend's house or visit by. Mostly it's a family holiday.
Right.
So my mom would, if we were the kunjip, if we were talking about the same equivalent of the Korean situation for Solal or Chuseok. If my family was hosting the get together, we'd have all family members come to our place, and my mom would cook up a storm.
Okay.
And,
cook up a storm. What do you mean?
Cook up a storm means all the fixings, all the traditional dishes that.
Do you do turkey?
We do turkey. We do a ham. We do scalloped potatoes. We do a lasagna. We do cheese bread. We do 7-layer salad. We do things that you would not believe could be legally done with a kitchen.
Do you do a tree?
We do a tree, yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if my mom's tree was still up now. But that's
well,
kind
it
of
is
a joke.
July.
It is July.
It's time for the
One time
tree.
we did have a Christmas in July, 50th anniversary for my grandparents, and we all wore these stupid reindeer hats and stuff. That was in July. But
if you have a photo, we'll include it in the video. If you can find a photo of that.
I don't think I will.
Moving forward. Unit 5 is ports, transportation, and accommodation. So if I were to go to Canada, and again, Canada is a very big country, but tell us what is one of the main international airports in Canada?
So you have to fly to Toronto or Vancouver usually.
And so those are the two bigger hubs, is Toronto and
because there's
Vancouver.
basically a Canadian monopoly on regional travel within the country.
And so once we get to Canada, what are some modes of transportation that we can find?
Right.
Obviously, let's cut to the chase. We have trains and planes and taxis and automobiles.
Right.
Take us further. If we're adventurous and we're in Canada, what are some more interesting modes of transportation that we
Right.
can...
I mean, you mentioned automobiles. Of course, includes buses. They're fairly
and
common.
buses, subways.
We don't have not many subways. My hometown does not have subways. We have buses, and it's a very suburban city. So people either drive their own car or they have to wait an hour for a bus, basically. We have one major train line from east to west. It's not many passenger trains, so we have, I think it was called the Via Rail, and you can travel coast to coast on that, basically.
So people love their cars like
people love their cars, yeah. So
States.
people tend to do a lot of big road trips.
Right.
So like a 10-hour road trip is nothing really in Canada, right? It's about a 36-hour drive from my hometown to Toronto.
And then getting up into the northern sections, what
you have to have
transportation do they do
up
in
to
the
a certain
north?
point? You also have rail and roads. The roads end first, and then the rails maybe continue to more northern expanses. Other than that, though, you have to fly in. You have to fly with bush plane. Helicopters not so common. So bush planes are small planes, usually with kind of
pontoons.
Pontoons to allow you to
land
on lakes.
And lakes.
And snow too,
Right.
primary lakes, right? So that's very difficult to get to. I mean, and once you're up there, you could have snowmobile.
Snowmobiles.
Which is also kind of a small tracked and ski fronted vehicle.
Have you ridden snowmobiles?
Yes, I have. Yes, and almost lost it under the ice a couple of times too. Yes, my uncle was not impressed. And if we get very far north, you might still find the Inuit using the kayaks, whether they're traditional or not traditional, and also dog sleds as well too.
Dog sleds and maybe reindeer-led sleds?
No, reindeer are Sami in Europe. But we have caribou.
Caribou.
Caribou are completely untamed.
I see.
They've never been domesticated.
Well, good for them.
Yeah.
So if we come and visit your hometown, Manitoba.
Yep, you land in Winnipeg International Airport.
Winnipeg National Airport. What is a nice hotel to stay at? What would you say?
It's been a while since I stayed there in a place other than my mom's house. Maybe the West Inn is a famous name.
West Inn?
The West Inn, yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of a brand name too.
Are there hostels throughout?
There may be. You might stay at the YMCA if you're really dirt
The
poor.
YMCA.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the YMCA. What does that stand for?
Young Men's Christian Association.
And so there's a YWCA also.
That's right, where the women would go.
Okay. And so what amenities are offered at a YMCA or a YWCA?
I think they have some sporting facilities, shower facilities. Maybe they have a bunk to stay in, but I'm not sure.
Basic stuff.
Very basic, yeah.
And pretty cheap?
I would guess so.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Question 25, we're talking about currency.
Right.
And what is the currency of Canada?
Right. It's called a dollar, but a dollar
is it a dollar?
Yeah, it's called a dollar. Yeah, that's.
I've heard loonie.
A loonie is a $1 coin.
That's just the name of the $1 coin.
Right, because it has a picture of a loon.
Which is a
type of a fish-eating duck.
Okay.
Yeah. And we also have the toonie, which is a $2 coin, which has a polar bear on it, which has nothing to do with being called two.
But toonie just means two.
Yeah.
Based on loony.
Right.
Okay,
So
that's interesting.
that's since the 90s that they maybe late 80s, maybe 89 is when they first got the loonie.
But it's the Canadian dollar.
It's
and
Canadian
do
dollar.
you know the exchange rate of the Canadian dollar these days?
No, I don't.
All right,
No.
we can look it up.
I haven't sent any money home for a long time.
Right.
I have no account to send home to anymore. So.
Well,
Mhm.
it's not a bad thing. Unit 6 is greetings, gestures, and customs.
Mhm.
I'm in Canada,
Mhm.
and I meet a Canadian.
Yeah.
What greeting is used in the majority of Canada?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey,
Nice
how's
to
it
meet you.
go? How's it going?
Yeah.
How's it going, eh?
How's it going, eh? Could be, depending on how traditional you might be.
Throughout the majority of the Midwest and West
Mhm.
is English. If I'm in the eastern part of Canada, what is a greeting that would be used?
Ça va, comment ça va, I guess.
Ça va, comment ça va?
But that's only in the French parts. And
Right.
The Far East is still English speaking.
Okay,
So
okay.
Lots of Scots and Irish and down there.
Okay. And
so the Newfoundlanders like to say, "What are you at?"
what are you at?
Mm-hmm. Very strange.
And that means,
how's it going? How
how's
you
it
doing?
going?
Yeah, yeah.
What are you at?
Mysterious people, those Newfoundlanders.
Yeah. Gestures. What are some gestures, some polite gestures that we can use in Canada?
A wave is very common.
Waving to say hello
Wave and goodbye.
and goodbye.
Yeah.
A good handshake.
Good handshake, yeah. And the wave depends on your range too. If you're face to face, you don't need to do the wave so much.
Right.
Maybe a nod.
Nod.
When you're greeting them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the next question is, what gestures are impolite in Canada?
Well, obviously there's the middle finger.
Right.
And if you're Italian,
Read between the lines.
If you're Italian, you might do the figo. You might put the thumb within the hand.
What's that one?
Well, like this, right?
This.
This is very impolite for some people, I suppose.
That's Italian?
I think so. Or you can do the large arm raise.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And those all have basically the same meaning?
Which means put it where the sun don't shine.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, it's good to know. I mean,
Yeah.
every country has
Right.
different gestures, and
Right.
the gestures have different
Yeah.
meanings.
You know,
so
if you do the
we
thumbs up,
wanna-
it's a very positive
thumbs
thing
up,
too. Yeah.
thumbs down, good, bad.
Yeah.
Okay, customs. What are some customs in Canada? Are there any
Well, for
Canadian-specific customs?
Do you mean like when like a housewarming, people will come over and bring a gift?
All
for
right, so let's
example?
say you have a new house and I come to your house.
Mhm.
What is a custom that I should follow?
Well, you might bring a plant. You might bring a bottle of wine.
Okay.
You know, we're pretty open to drinking in that country. You know, not much to do.
Water? Orangey
Alcohol.
juice? Oh, okay.
Yeah, wine. I said wine,
A
Stephen.
nice wine?
Nice wine. Stop whining.
Okay. Very clever, this guy.
Not really.
Religions. What religions are practiced throughout Canada?
Well, I mean, if you look at the French segment, Roman Catholicism. If you look at the English segment, a lot of the Anglicans, aka Church of England. The biggest Protestant church is probably still the United Church of Canada, which was united, that's the name, in 1925, bringing about 2/3 of the Presbyterians, all of the Methodists, and pretty much all the Congregationalists together. And then we also have the Pentecostals and Baptists. Now we have Hindus and Sikhs and Buddhists and other people too.
Right.
So you'll occasionally see a temple or some religious edifice.
Good melting pot of
it's a melting pot.
And religions.
I wouldn't necessarily use the word good, but it's definitely a melting pot.
Well,
yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, if you want to, it doesn't really melt. Sometimes it's side by side.
Right. Unit 7 is landmarks, activities, and things to do. Canada is a very, very big country.
Darn right.
As a native Canadian, where is a good place to go sightseeing in your country?
Oh, I mean, if you like nature, go to the Rocky Mountains, for example.
Right.
If you want to see a fantastic waterfall, go to Niagara Falls in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
If you just want to go hiking and canoeing, almost anywhere in the north or the west is good. You know, northern Ontario is great. Watch out for the black bears.
Right.
Keep your food out of sight and out of smell. Out of
Have
reach.
you seen bears in Canada?
Yes. Like pretty much face to face sometimes.
Wow.
So that's when you close the door and decide not to use the outdoor bathroom.
Landmarks. What are some famous landmarks in
Well,
Canada?
you have the CN Tower in Toronto. It's one of the largest spires, I guess. It's not really a functional tower in the way that the Empire State Building would be, but it's a large concrete and steel mass that sticks up in the sky. It's been featured in several movies, I suppose.
And anything else?
I think the Hotel Frontenac in, I think it's Quebec City. I've never been to Quebec, so I can't speak for it, but it's a famous hotel.
Okay.
So it's
Activities. What are some activities that Canadians enjoy?
Well, they do a lot of winter sports naturally because winter is such a big part of our experience. So everything from ice hockey, ball hockey, which is played on ice or off ice with your shoes and not skates. In our brief summers, we have soccer as well too. Lots of hiking, lots of canoeing, fishing, and hunting. I used to love going fishing with my dad and occasionally hunting as well.
Nice.
And yeah, lots of natural-based activities are possible.
And so
depends.
Okay. And the next question is more specific for you. Where is a good place to do an activity that you enjoy? So you said that you enjoy fishing.
Right.
And you enjoyed fishing with your father. So did you have a?
Well, we used to have a small cabin. Largest cabin, a little north of Winnipeg. To be honest, the fishing wasn't great there, but there were lots of places nearby. The more isolated lake you can get to, the chances are that it's going to be better fishing.
And what kind of fish do you pull from the
lakes? The Americans call them walleye, but we call them pickerel. And also lots of jackfish, which is also called muskellunge. Lots of trout as well. Depending on where you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dan, people watching is part of the book in Unit 7. Where is a good place to go people watching in Canada if you want to see some?
Well, any shopping mall is probably good. You know, you often see quite an interesting range of people and all kinds of
shapes and sizes.
Especially if there's a Walmart box store attached to it. People Walmart. So some people will be underdressed, some people will be overdressed. Some people, there'll be many different ethnicities, I'm sure, wandering around.
Outside of malls,
we have beaches.
In a city, or the beach. You have beaches in Canada.
Yeah, we do. We even have freshwater beaches. We've got, what's it called? Grand Beach, which is actually
where is that located?
It's northeast of my hometown.
In Manitoba.
On Lake Winnipeg.
Okay.
And it's one of the cleanest sandy beaches in the world, actually.
Right.
It's the natural beaches.
The last unit, Dan, is Unit 8.
Woo!
And we talk about music, pop culture, and famous people.
All right.
Canada, what kinds of music are popular in Canada?
Well, it's kind of a no-brainer to say all kinds.
All
everything.
kinds.
So most cities will have a symphony orchestra, for example.
Nice.
We have a folk festival and a jazz festival in my hometown
Excellent.
as well too. So you get exposure to all kinds of different cultures and musical performers and stuff too. The Guess Who are from Canada.
Right.
And Neil Young is from Canada as well too.
Neil Young, yeah.
There we go. So lots of famous people like that. We keep apologizing for Bryan Adams, but and Justin Bieber, they're also from Canada. And you are welcome to keep them as long as you need.
Well,
if you want more authentic music, maybe there'd be some native groups,
right.
I suppose, like Hashtin was a small two-man group from northern Quebec that I used to listen to.
And what genre would that?
Well, kind of like folky, semi-rock, but they sing in Innu,
Okay.
the Cree language, which I don't understand, but
You don't have to.
but I really enjoyed listening to that. And also Eastern Canada again. We want to talk about Newfoundland traditional music, for example. Great Big Sea. They're close buddies with Russell Crowe.
Great Big Sea.
Great Big Sea.
S-E-E-S-E-A.
S-E-A. Great Big Sea, for example. The East Coast has produced a lot of more traditional, more authentic local music. I guess so it's folk music, but it's been made popular as well too.
The next question is talking about famous people. We talked a bit about the musicians, but what other famous people? Could be actors, actresses, artists. What famous
Mary
people
Pickford
are
was from Canada.
Mary Pickford.
Early movies legend, I suppose. Banting and Best, the discoverers of insulin, were also Canadian.
Okay. How about, well, I guess Jim Carrey obviously
Jim
is
Carrey, the actor,
Canadian.
yeah, William Shatner.
Really?
Yeah, William Shatner, yeah, of Star Trek fame. He was also
I did
and
not
James
know
Doohan,
that.
who played Captain, I can't believe we're from Canada. He is also a Canadian actor too.
What was his name?
James Doohan.
And
He played Scotty on Star Trek.
He's a Star Trek guy.
The engineer guy.
Question 38 is, who is the president or leader of Canada?
Well, we don't have a president. Well,
No
they don't have a
president.
president. I haven't voted for.
So Canada has
a prime minister.
a prime minister.
Right.
And who is the prime minister of Canada?
The current prime minister of Canada is Justin Trudeau.
Justin Trudeau.
But I have to tell you that the head of state, the power is not the prime minister. The power is the governor general.
Okay. And who is the governor general?
I don't know who the current governor general is now, but it is an appointed position, and that person, he or she, reports directly to the Queen in London.
Okay.
And that person has the power to shut down Parliament at the bidding of the Queen at any given time.
So the Queen still holds ultimate reign
She
in
holds
Canada.
a lot of crown land in Canada. So most of the wilderness area, that's owned by her, ultimately.
Okay, that's interesting. Moving on to subcultures. Are there any unique subcultures in Canada?
Unique. I mean, there are the Aboriginal populations.
Okay.
You know, the Indians, the various tribes. And then there are many, many tribes. The Métis, as I mentioned.
The Métis?
They are sometimes Scottish and Cree, sometimes more often French and Cree. They're a product of the fur trade in Canada. So they have their own kind of like fiddle music and very proud culture to themselves too. They speak French and Cree, the Métis.
All right, we'll check that one out.
That's very cool.
All right, Dan, are you ready for the last question?
Possibly.
Possibly.
What is the last question?
Last question. Question 40 is
this.
The national flower. What is the national flower of Canada?
Well, Steve, you may not know this.
I don't.
But we don't actually have a national flower.
Is that right?
But we have a national arboreal tree-based emblem, like the maple leaf. Maple leaf is widely recognized as a Canadian symbol. However, provincially, from province to province, which is like a state, we have a provincial flower called the prairie crocus.
Your provincial
in Manitoba.
Manitoba is
the prairie crocus. It's kind of like a small purplish flower.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. And our provincial bird is the great gray owl.
for Manitoba is the
That's
great
right.
gray owl.
That's right.
Wise and...
Wise and rare and a killer in the night, apparently.
Yeah. All right, well, Dan, thank you very much.
Thanks for
your
having
time.
me over. You're welcome for my time.
It's been an education for myself, and I hope it's been a good and entertaining education for our viewers.
Oh, you're welcome.
And until next time, my name is Stephen Walker.
Daniel Barry, but I won't be here next time.
And this is Tell Me About It, 40 Questions.
And we told you about it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Until next time, bye-bye.